Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about the latest election law skirmish, this one out of Arizona, involving a fairly long-standing battle waged by Republicans to force more stringent proof of citizenship on Arizonans who want to vote. Let's start with the backdrop here, which is the suggestion that non-citizens are voting and therefore you need extra protections. It would appear to be, here and elsewhere in the country, malarkey. And rather, what's going on is provisions designed to make it easier, or at least to remove obstacles for voting, tend to enfranchise a greater percentage of Democrats, and for that reason, Republicans fight them. And they got a partial victory yesterday from the United States Supreme Court, due both to substance and also this distinctive feature of election law, which is you have to decide things quickly and on the run, because in the real world, deadlines come and deadlines go, and you can't do things after a certain time, including even before the elections. So the provision here would require voters to show proof of citizenship, such as a passport. And a lot of people don't have proof of citizenship. As I think about it, I guess I could find my passport, but what to do exactly and the other things you need would be a puzzle. Anyway, this case has been making its way up the federal courts in Arizona, and it was in the Ninth Circuit when the Republican plaintiffs moved for an emergency order, and you've heard about the shadow docket. They just asked the U.S. Supreme Court to intervene because we were on the very final day before ballots needed to be printed and voter registration logs needed to be produced. So at least what the AG was saying, not enough time. But what the Republicans were saying is the typical thing you say in these things, which is, we want to stay. We want you to Supreme Court to stop the music because, and this is just the terms that you need to show to get a stay, we think we're going to win and the balance of equities favor us. And so for right now, enter something that puts the law in our favor, and then we will continue to play this out in the Ninth Circuit. Okay, and the event that happened yesterday was the Supreme Court this is something that's been criticized quite a lot, an unsigned order gave them half a loaf. So 4 members of the court, Jackson, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Barrett, voted not to permit enforcement of either provision that's at issue in Arizona. I will tell you about it in a minute. Gorsuch, Alito, and Thomas voted to permit Arizona Republicans' supposed fraud prevention provision both to go into effect. And we don't know who, one or both of Roberts and Kavanaugh, split their vote. So a sort of classic distribution of the current Supreme Court. All right. And that means that one provision of the Arizona law goes into effect and has purchase in this very election, and one does not. You can frame it based in one of 2 different ways. The law said if you use a certain federal form, you don't have to show the requisite proof of citizenship, or that had been the law. And the suit is saying that needs to remain because Arizona's efforts to try to interfere with that violate statutory law. There's a constitutional claim in there, but statutory voting law, and therefore are preempted. And so their argument is that people who already have registered and use the federal form. And I think it's also, though, as I say, it's an unsigned, unreasoned order. It's also for people who have already registered, who use the state provision with its extra requirements of showing citizenship. They, by a vote of 5, continue to be able to vote in this election. But going forward, a different 5 of the Supreme Court said that the people who are going to be registering going forward under the coming election are going to have to provide a birth certificate or a passport in order to prove their citizenship. And based on that, you had certain Republicans, this is all a little bit of posing for PR reasons, but you had a Republican who's involved in the case, absolutely touting the ruling and saying this is going to really stop fraud, which is, as I've said, malarkey all along. But they are projecting that they have their half of the loaf is bigger. Others, it's very interesting, actually, if you canvass all the papers, you have in the headlines, some saying Supreme Court doesn't block registration and therefore helps the Democratic side, or the side that wants to enfranchise more people. Just to be clear, it's, this is about, in all the states, Dems wanting more people to be enfranchised and make it easier to vote, and that typically encompasses more Democratic voters, but it needn't. But the sort of headline array, if you put it up, would be startling, of some people saying basically the court comes down for the Republicans, and some saying it comes down against them. What it looks to be is a half a loaf, and the number one thing they didn't do is the most important. It would have been a travesty involving huge numbers if all these people who had already registered were in a swoop eliminated. And as to the ones going forward, they'll be more onerous, but at least the state and the parties and people who help register know the rules of the game, so they can really try to work with them. So I would say a half of a loaf to Republicans, maybe even 40%, but it still impacts on the current election in the swing states, which include Arizona, and in which every vote counts. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.